The creation of the universe was something that astronomers completely ignored a century ago. This was because it was generally accepted that the universe existed in infinite time. They examined the universe and concluded that it was just a conglomerate of matter and there was never a time when it did not exist. Hence, it was not created. This notion stemmed from the materialist philosophy, which was originally advanced by the Greeks and then survived in different forms during the Roman times. The philosophy started to disintegrate because of the influence of the Roman Catholic Church and the Christian faith, which claimed that the universe indeed had a creator. But the Renaissance brought about a renewed belief in the materialist philosophy, largely due to the devotion of European scholars and scientists to the Greek philosophy. During the European Enlightenment, Immanuel Kant reasserted the philosophy, and his followers continued to defend it up until the 20th century, where it was further propagated by thinkers like Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. An ardent champion of both Marxism and materialism was George Pulitzer, who in his book Principes Fondatox de Philosophy wrote, and I quote, "The universe was not a created object. If it were, then it would have to be created instantaneously by God and brought into existence from nothing. To admit creation, one has to admit in the first place the existence of a moment when the universe did not exist, and that something came out of nothingness. This is something to which science cannot accede." Pulitzer thought that science was on his side in the defense of the infinite universe, but as it would be proven, the universe indeed had a beginning. A Russian physicist, Alexander Friedman, in the year 1922, made a lot of calculations to show that the universe was not static. Based on the calculations, a Belgian astronomer, Georges Lemaître, declared that the universe was indeed not static, but is constantly expanding due to something that triggered it. The breakthrough was achieved by an American astronomer, Edwin Hubble, in the year 1929, who observed through a giant telescope in the California Mount Wilson Observatory that the stars were moving away from us, and he later discovered that the stars were not only moving away from us, but moving away from each other. This led to the conclusion that the universe is constantly expanding. The discovery by Hubble that the universe was constantly expanding meant that if you go back in time, it would shrink and converge at a single point. This means that the universe at some point was compacted in a single point mass that had zero volume, and the universe came into being as a result of the explosion of the point mass. This explosion has come to be referred to as the Big Bang. What happened after the Big Bang? How did the particles accumulate to form the stars? Is it possible that the delicate balance in our solar system has come out of that explosion? After the explosion, different particles shattered in different directions in a mighty force. God organized these particles over billions of years into stars and galaxies. Without this force of the Creator, matter that sprang out of this explosion would never have united into meaningful and working systems. The equilibrium needed for this universe to be what it is today is described by a mathematical physicist, Paul Davies, and I quote, "Careful measurements puts the rate of expansion very close to a critical value at which the universe will just escape its own gravity and expand forever. A little slower and the cosmos would collapse, a little faster and the cosmic material would have long ago completely dispersed." It is interesting to ask precisely how delicately the rate of expansion has been fine-tuned to fall on this narrow dividing line between two catastrophes. If at time is by which time pattern of expansion was already firmly established, the expansion rate had differed from its actual value by more than 1/quintillionth of a second, it would have been sufficient to throw the delicate balance out. The Big Bang was not evidently any old bang, but an explosion of exquisitely arranged magnitude. Stephen Hawking, in his work, A Brief History of Time, also states that, and I quote, If the rate of expansion 1 second after the Big Bang had been smaller by even 1 part in 100,000 million, the universe would have collapsed before it ever reached its present size. After the Big Bang, the universe was a very dark place without stars and galaxies for a few 100 million years. The universe was like a hot soup of particles comprising protons, neutrons, and electrons. Let's get a bit technical for a few seconds. So, when the universe began to cool, the protons and neutrons started combining into ionized atoms of hydrogen and deuterium. Never mind, to technical. After all of these technical processes, the universe went from being opaque to transparent. Then we move to the dark ages of the universe, a period just before the first stars were formed. After the Dark Ages, we then have the Epoch of Reionization. Let's backtrack a bit. When the universe was 1/100th of a billionth of a trillionth of a trillionth of a second in age, it experienced an incredible burst of expansion known as the inflation, in which space expanded faster than the speed of light, and the universe doubled in size at least 90 times, starting from subatomic sized to a golf ball size almost instantaneously. The expansion of the universe was gradually slowed down as the matter in the universe was gradually pulling on itself because of gravity. About 6 billion years after the Big Bang, a mysterious force called the dark energy began to speed up the expansion of the universe, which continues to this day. So it turns out that atoms make up only about 4.6% of the universe. Then 23% is made up of the dark matter, which are subatomic matter that interact very weakly with ordinary matter. The remaining 72% is made up of the dark energy, which is the force driving and accelerating the expansion of the universe. Our solar system was formed about 9 billion years after the Big Bang, and it has existed for about 4.6 billion years. Looking at the relation between the Big Bang and religion, the cosmologists of the 1920s and 1930s preferred an eternal steady-state universe, and they complained that the beginning of time implied by the Big Bang imported religious concepts into physics. So, does the Big Bang confirm that indeed there is a creator? In Hinduism, the Hindu Puranas are of the view that the universe cosmology is eternal and time has no absolute beginning, but rather it's infinite and cyclical, as opposed to a universe that originated from the Big Bang. However, the Encyclopedia of Hinduism states that the Big Bang theory reminds humanity that everything came from the Brahman, which is subtler than the atom, greater than the greatest. It consists of several Big Bangs and Big Crunches following each other in a cyclical manner. Some Orthodox Jews believe that the Torah is a revelation from God and all that is in it is literal truth, so God created the universe in 7 days, which is an allegory, or refers to stages or periods of time lasting many millions of years. While many liberal Jews may not believe the creation story to be literally true in every detail, many acknowledge that God was in control of the universe and oversaw the process. Many Jews believe that God is omnipotent and he created the universe virtually instantly without contradicting the evidences of the Big Bang theory. Moving towards Christianity, the Big Bang theory was partly developed by a Catholic priest, George Lemaitre, who believed that there was neither a connection nor a conflict between his religion and science. Pope Pius XII in 1951 had also declared that the Big Bang theory does not conflict with the Catholic concept of creation. Some conservative Protestant Christians have also accepted the theory, leaving young Earth creationists who advocate a very literal interpretation of the book of Genesis. In Islam, a verse in the Holy Scripture, the Quran says that the universe was at a single point and it was caused to be unstitched, that is, separated, alluding to the Big Bang. God also says that he created the universe, and it is he who is steadily expanding it. This is what scholars refer to as the dark energy that causes the universe to expand. These revelations all came centuries before Hubble's discovery of the expanding universe. Just like Judaism, Islam also believes God created the universe in 7 days, but again these days do not mean the days of the earth, but periods spanning billions of years. This is supported in the Quran, where a heavenly day is described as being different from a worldly day. How then did God create our solar system? How can the Earth be the only planet that supports life? Subscribe as you wait for the next intriguing story.